Fudbalski Club Sarajevo is a Bosnian professional football club based in Sarajevo, the capital city of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and is one of the most successful clubs in the country. Founded on October 24, 1946, FK Sarajevo was the most successful club from senior Bosnia in former SFR Yugoslavia, winning 2 Yugoslav First League titles, being runners-up on 2 other occasions and finishing 6th in that competition's all-time table. FK Sarajevo was the only major football club founded by the post-war Yugoslav authorities in the city of Sarajevo. The club entered the Yugoslav First League in the 1948 to Euro 49 season, and eventually competed in all but 2 seasons in the top tier. Today, FK Sarajevo is one of the most prominent members of the Premier League of Bosnia and Herzegovina, where it has won 2 Bosnian championships, 5 Bosnian Cups and 1 Bosnian Supercup. It is ranked second in the Premier League of Bosnia and Herzegovina all-time table. FK Sarajevo is one of the 2 most popular football clubs in the country, alongside FK Angstrom 1/2 Željezničar, with whom it shares a strong rivalry that manifests itself in the Sarajevo derby. Since December 2013, FK Sarajevo is owned by Malaysian businessman, investor and chairman of Bejaya Group, Vincent Tan. History. Origins. FK Sarajevo was established on October 24, 1946 as the result of a merger between local Sarajevo football clubs Ardanik and Sloboda. The club first appeared on the Yugoslav sports scene in 1946 under the name SD Torpedo that represented an homage to Torpedo Moscow. The first chairman of the newly founded club was Zafet Dar 3/4 Inovia, while the positions of vice-chairman were granted to Vojo Markovia and Alojz Stanarevia respectively. Furthermore, Josip Balat was named manager. The newly formed team, which inherited the results and league standings of Ardanik, was joined by selected players from both Ardanik and Sloboda. Namely, Hoda 3/4 Ear, Blaja Ear, Angstrom Arine Kappa, Pokervia, Fizovia, Konjevia, Radovia, Vion and Mustagru from the former, and Manchala, Glavoevia, Toia, Pecelj, Novo, Strinia, A. Lovria and Delorbergovia from the latter. The team played its first match on November 3, 1946. Another historical assembly was held on October 5, 1947 when it was decided, on the proposal of then editor of the popular daily newspaper Oslobor, Mirko Ostoja, that the club name shall be changed to SDM Sarajevo, before it was finally changed to the current name in 1949. In September 1948 SDM Sarajevo was joined by Yugoslav footballing legend, Miroslav Brozovic, who brought in a largely needed level of experience to the new team. The Mostar native previously wore the black and white jersey of FK Partizan, as well as captaining the Yugoslav national team. Brozovic was offered the position of player-manager which he accepted, turning his attentions to promoting the team to the Yugoslav First League. FK Sarajevo first entered the top-flight Yugoslav First League after eliminating Belgrade club Sloga. They drew the first match 3-3 in Novi Sad, but then won the second match 5-1 in Sarajevo. The team were relegated after their first season in the First League, but were promoted back to the top tier in 1950. From then on FK Sarajevo played in every season of the First League apart from 1957 to 1958. The club's first taste of European competitions began during the 1960s when it took part in the 1960 Mitropa Cup and the 1961 Euro 63 Balkans Cup, while the first serious European competition the club took part in was the 1962 Euro 63 Intertoto Cup. First championship generation 1966 Euro 67 Yugoslav First League table. A key player for Sarajevo in their early years was legendary striker Rasim Furtovia, nicknamed Hayes, who played for the club from 1952 to 1967. In 1963 Euro 64, he was top scorer in the First League with 19 goals, while the club finished 4th. The following year the club finished second. Sarajevo won their first Yugoslav First League title in 1966 Euro 67, becoming the first national champions from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Sarajevo started the historic season with Brzovica at the helm of the coaching staff. The team had a dream start with back-to-back wins against FK Željezničar and their city rivals FK Angstrom 1/2 Željezničar. This was followed by a draw against the European Cup runners-up, FK Partizan, in which Sarajevo squandered an early lead. With 7 points from their first 3 fixtures, Sarajevo was still not considered a title favourite, but that was to change after Brzovica, a Euro unregistered trademark S-Boys returned from the Dalmatian coast with a win against Hajduk Split. 4 days later Sarajevo beat NK Olimpija 2-1 at a sold-out Koivu Stadium. Hard-earned wins against HNK Rijeka and Red Star Belgrade followed, and by the winter break Sarajevo had won 14 out of their first 20 league fixtures, finishing the year at pole position. The team opened the second part of the season away to Dinamo Zagreb in the last 16 of the Yugoslav Cup, winning 1-0 courtesy of a Boako Anša stunner. In the quarter-finals Sarajevo got the better of FK Napredak, but eventually lost in the cup final to Hajduk Split, played at the Stari Plak Stadium on May 24. The team was quickly back to winning ways, defeating Red Star Belgrade at the Maracana 3-1 with 2 goals by Anša and 1 by Prodanovic. A week later OFK Belgrade was defeated with the same margin, but a shock defeat to FK Vojvodina in Novi Sad brought Dinamo Zagreb on level points with 3 games to go. FK Vardar was defeated next thanks to a Musinja brace, while Dinamo dropped points in Rijeka. In the last league fixture of the season Sarajevo hosted NK Ajax in front of 30,000 spectators and went on to win 5-2, bringing home the club's first league title. The league triumph qualified Sarajevo to the 1967 Euro 68 European Cup, where they played their first tie against Cypriots Olympiakos Nicosia, winning 5-3 on aggregate. In the second round, Sarajevo was knocked out 2-1 on aggregate by eventual champions Manchester United of England, despite hosting a goalless draw in the first leg. The first leg was played before an audience of 40,000 spectators and refereed by the Italian Francesco Francescan. The second leg, played at Old Trafford, ended in controversy after the ball went out of bounds prior to the hosts scoring their second goal. Notable Sarajevo players during this era included Boako Anša, Mirsat Fazlagia, Vahidin Musinja, Farudin Prljaa and Boako Prodanovic. 1967 Euro 68 European Cup second round. Manchester United won 2-1 on aggregate. A period of stagnation. Shortly after winning its first Yugoslav League title FK Sarajevo endured a period of general stagnation. The team entered the 1967-68 season as strong title favourites, but the campaign turned out to be a complete disaster. Namely, the Maroon Whites, managed by former player Franjo Lovria, did not manage to enter the championship race in hopes of defending the title, finishing mere 7th. The club management quickly named Munib Sarajevo manager for the 1968-69 season, but this move also turned out to be fruitless. The team concluded the disappointing campaign 11th in the league standings. In the 1971 January transfer window 6 members of the championship-winning generation, including Boako Prodanovic, Anel Kotian and Farudin Prljaa, left the club while 3 more followed in July of the same year, including star player Boako Anša. The next season brought hope with the team going into the winter break clinching first spot, but only managing to finish 7th at the end of season. The 1973-74 season brought in a handful of new players, including the likes of future club legend Angstrom 1/2 Alimir Vidovic and former Red Star Belgrade and Bayern Munich striker Dusan Jovanovic. Furthermore, that same year 18-year-old Zafet Suaia joined the club from Krivajar Zavidovic, and would go on to be one of the main catalysts for the club's second major spell at the top of Yugoslav football in the coming years. It is important to note that all FK Sarajevo was able to muster in the first 11 seasons after taking home the title in 1967 was 1 6th-place league finish, 2 7th-place league finishes and a 1 quarter-final finish in the Yugoslav Cup in 1976-77. In that same year the club barely retained its place in the top tier with a 2-point advantage over relegated Napredak Kragujevac. The 1978-79 season though, brought a breath of fresh air for Sarajevo fans, with the team finishing fourth behind Hajduk Split, Dinamo Zagreb and Red Star Belgrade, and in doing so signaled things to come. Second championship generation 1984 Euro 85 Yugoslav First League table. FK Sarajevo had a second successful spell between 1978 and 1985, led by the attacking duo Predrag Porija Euro Zafet Suaija, which established itself among the most prolific tandems in Yugoslav and Bosnian football history. Predrag Porija, nicknamed Pajar, was a winger or striker and had emerged through the club's youth ranks, eventually going on to play for Sarajevo up until his move to VfB Stuttgart after the title-winning season in 1985. On the other hand, Suaija, nicknamed Pate, played the positions of playmaker and attacking midfielder, and wore the maroon-white jersey from 1973 to 1982, when he moved to Paris Saint-Germain FC in 1978 to Euro 79. Suaija scored 15 goals and was named Player of the Season as Sarajevo finished fourth. The following year, Suaija's 17 goals helped retain his Player of the Year title, but he was also joint top scorer in the league. The club came runner-up that season, 7 points behind Red Star Belgrade, therefore qualifying for the 1980 Euro 81 UEFA Cup. Sarajevo was knocked out in the first round by German powerhouse Hamburger SV, that won 7-5 on aggregate. Sarajevo returned to the UEFA Cup in 1982 Euro 83, beating Bulgaria's Slavia Sofia 6-4 in the first round and Romanian club FC Corvinul Hundorel 8-4 in the second, thanks to a 4-0 home win in the second leg. In the third round, Sarajevo lost their first leg 6-1 to Belgian club RSC Anderlecht, and despite winning the second leg 1-0, were eliminated by the eventual champions. Sarajevo also reached a Yugoslav Cup final that season, losing 3-2 to Dinamo Zagreb and Belgrade. Sarajevo won their second championship title in 1984 Euro 85, finishing 4 points ahead of runners-up Hajduk Split. The new championship season didn't start in spectacular fashion for Sarajevo, but as the season continued the team kept gaining momentum and grasped first spot on way to the winter break. Boa Koanča's boys didn't start the second part of the season in a positive note, winning only 2 points out of their first 3 fixtures. Their main rival Hajduk Split also started the second part of the season on the wrong foot, winning just 1 out of their first 3 matches, which kept Sarajevo above by 1 point. Anča's team went on to beat Sloboda and draw Dinamo Zagreb and Angstrom 1/2 Ljizr, before travelling to Split for the crucial game against Hajduk. A packed Poljud stadium witnessed a 0-0 draw that ensured Sarajevo's 1-point advantage over the Croatian side. The title race eventually came down to just the Maroon Whites and the Dalmatian side, with hard-won victories on both sides. 3 games until the Finnish Hajduk secured a comfortable route over Rijeka, while Sarajevo had a much more difficult time in Novi Sad against Vojvodina. Namely, the hosts broke the deadlock after just 2 minutes of play. Luckily for the huge number of travelling fans, Boa Koanča's men were able to equalise 10 minutes from the breakthrough a Jakovićev effort, and to eventually snatch the win 7 minutes from time courtesy of a phenomenal volley from the edge of the box by Slavia Vukijevija. The Maroon Whites now needed 5 points from their 3 last fixtures to clinch the title. A routine 3-0 victory over Iskra was followed by a tough match against Vardar in Skopje that ended in a 2-2 draw, after the hosts went up 2-0 just before half-time. It all came down to the final league game against Red Star Belgrade, played at a sold-out Koivu Stadium, where the Maroon Whites need just a point to mathematically clinch the title. Musimir broke the deadlock in the 23-minute and Jakovićev doubled Sarajevo's lead with 15 minutes to go. The visitors were able to pull one back through Boa Kojurovski in the 85th minute. But it was too little too late. The celebrations began. Sarajevo had won its second Yugoslav League title. The triumph qualified the club for the first round of the 1985 Euro 86 European Cup, where they shockingly lost both legs to Finnish side FC Lahti. This result is still considered Sarajevo's worst in major European competitions. The championship-winning generation included the likes of Yugoslav Musemia, Farhad Abegia, David Josiah, Dragan Jakoviljavia, Milo Erkovia, Predrag Poria, Mtsa Kapitanovia, Slavia Avukia Evija, Zijad Angstrom Vrakia, Senad Murdanovia and Miam Janjo. Pre-war years FK Sarajevo entered a turbulent period after clinching its second Yugoslav League title. 3 major members of the championship-winning squad left the team in the summer of 1985. Star striker Yugoslav Musemia joined Red Star Belgrade. Farhad Abegia moved to Spanish side Real Betis. Team captain Predrag Poria moved to VfB Stuttgart in the Bundesliga. The club management, in search of replacements, turned its sights to young players from lower-tier sides, bringing in Bernard Barmjak, Vladimir Petkervia and Zoran Ljubija. Even though the team started the season on a high note, it finished a disappointing 15th at the end of the 1985-86 season, avoiding relegation by virtue of a superior goal difference compared to relegated OFK Beograd. The following season again culminated in a lowly finish, as new manager Denijel Piria led the team to a disappointing 13th place in the league standings. Further departures followed at the end of the season as Milo Erkovia joined Beşiktaş, Muhyiddin Tezkeruda 3/4 year made the move to Sturm Graz, David Josiah joined Serie A side AC Cena, Zijad Angstrom Vrakia transferred to Adana Demirspor and Branko Boa Njak joined NK Olimpija. The following 2 seasons again brought mediocre league finishes as the Maroon Whites concluded the respective campaigns on 13th and 14th spots, barely avoiding relegation on both occasions. As with previous seasons, a handful of players left the club during the summer transfer window, with Slavia Avukia Evija moving to Krakow Tail, goalkeeper Enver Lugua joining Konyaspor and Dragan Jakoviljavia moving to FC Nantes. On a positive note, the 1989-90 season brought the return of fan favourite Yugoslav Musemia, who had spent the previous season playing for Scottish side Hearts. His 9 goals in 26 appearances did little to improve league results, as the team again concluded the campaign on 13th spot, along with an early exit in the Yugoslav Cup after a defeat to Macedonian 3rd Division minnows, FK Silks. The 1990-91 season saw Fad Muzeorevia again being named manager after a 10-year absence. Furthermore, Soviet goalkeeper Alexei Prudnikov was brought in from Vilaya 3/4 Mostar, thus becoming the first foreign player in the history of the club. The team was able to conclude the season on 11th spot, defeating Red Star Belgrade in a crucial, hallmark game, only days after the Belgrade outfit won the European Cup. The 1991-92 season was marked by the disintegration of Yugoslavia, and was subsequently abandoned by Slovenian, Croatian and Bosnian sides. Football was abruptly halted in Bosnia and Herzegovina for the duration of the war that would last for 4 years. Notable FK Sarajevo players in the pre-war period were Milo Nedia, Dragan Jakoviljavia, Boban Boa 3/4 Ovia, Dane Kuprianin and Dejan Rajakovic. Post-Yugoslavia The Bosnian War in the early 1990s shut down competitive football in the territory, and as a result FK Sarajevo became a touring club in 1993, under manager Fad Muzeorevia, featuring players such as Elver Balja, Amir Turkovia, Senad Repu and Mtsa Anovia, all future national team players for Bosnia and Herzegovina. Many of the club's supporters, including the infamous Hordesla, joined the Army of the Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina and fought in the war. FK Sarajevo played a number of friendly games during this time, such as the now famous 4-1 victory over the local UN peacekeeping force in 1994, a 1-1 draw against Parma FC. While on tour in Italy, and a 3-1 victory over the Iranian national team in Tehran. In 1994 Euro 95, the first ever Bosnia and Herzegovina championship was held. Sarajevo came first in their 6-team league in Jablanica, and came runners-up in the final league stage in Zenica, behind local club NK Alaic. Sarajevo again finished as runners-up to AEK in 1996 a Euro 97, but beat the Zenica-based club in the Cup final and Supercup. The Cup was retained the following year, and despite finishing third in the league, Sarajevo was runner-up due to playoffs. In 1998 a Euro 99, playoff was not played, title was given to Sarajevo but the title does not count. In 2004, Zafet Suaia, who played at FK Sarajevo from 1973 to 1982, was voted Bosnia and Herzegovina's best player of the last 50 years at the UEFA Jubilee Awards. Sarajevo were runners-up in the Bosnia and Herzegovina Premier League in 2006 a Euro 07, but won their second title the following season, beating Zrinjski Mostar by 3 points. Sarajevo have been a regular in Europa League qualification in the 21st century, but are yet to make the group stages. Off the back of their 2006 a Euro 07 league title, Sarajevo played in the UEFA Champions League for the first time in its current format. They beat Maltese champions Masakslock FC 6-0 away in their first game, eventually winning 9-1 on aggregate. The second round saw Sarajevo defeat Belgians KRC Genk on away goals due to a 2-1 away win in the first leg, although the club was knocked out in the playoffs for the competition's group stage by Ukrainian champions Dynamo Kiev who won 4-0 on aggregate. 2007 a Euro 08 UEFA Champions League third qualifying round. Dynamo Kiev won for a Euro 0 on aggregate. The club made the playoffs round of the 2009 a Euro 10 UEFA Europa League and faced SFR Cluj but lost 3 a Euro 2 on aggregate. Team defeated Spartak Trnava and Helsingborg to get to the playoffs round. 2009 a Euro 10 UEFA Europa League qualifying phase playoff round. SFR Cluj won 3 a Euro 2 on aggregate. Vincent Tan era equals. Vincent Tan, a Malaysian businessman and the owner of the championship club Cardiff City, bought FK Sarajevo in late 2013 pledging to invest $2 million into the club. Under the deal, Cardiff will cooperate with FK Sarajevo, exchanging players and taking part in a football academy, yet to be established, which Tan has said would lure new talents. Under Mr. Tan's management the club brought in quality players with the likes of Malo Stojaev, Dar 3/4 Emil Berberovia and Nemanja Bilbija who helped the club win the 2013 a Euro 14 Bosnian Cup, their first silverware since winning the Premier League in 2006 a Euro 07. Prior to the Cup triumph, Robert Jani was brought in as the new manager of the club in December 2013 by Tan, but was quickly dismissed only 4 months into his tenure due to the team failing to keep its chances of winning the domestic league title alive during later stages of the 2013 a Euro 14 season. FK Sarajevo played a friendly match against Tan's Cardiff City FC U21 winning for a Euro 1. In 2014 a Euro 15 UEFA Europa League, FK Sarajevo eliminated FK Haugesund and Atramitos to qualify for the playoff round, where it lost to German side Borussia Mönchengladbach and Mönchengladbach. On July 17, 2014, Mr. Tan presented pledges of assistance of $255,000 each to 2 hospitals in Doboj and Maglaj during the half-time break of the Europa League qualifying match between FK Sarajevo and Norwegian club FK Haugesund at the Olympic Stadium in Sarajevo. The money raised would be used to purchase and donate much-needed medical equipment for the 2 hospitals. In June 2014, Mr. Vincent Tan made personal donation of $114,000, while People of Malaysia raised a total of $169,000 toward Bosnia's flood relief fund. In May 2014, the heaviest rains and floods in 120 years hit Bosnia and the surrounding region. The worst affected areas were the towns of Doboj and Maglaj, which were cut off from the rest of the country when floods deluged all major roads. Damage from landslides and floods was estimated to run into hundreds of millions of euros and 24 people lost their lives. The cost of the disaster, officials said, could exceed that of the Bosnian War. On August 5, 2014 FK Sarajevo signed a cooperation agreement with third-tier Bosnian club FK Bosnia, by which Sarajevo will loan its talented youngsters to the Visoko-based side and will have first-buy rights on all FK Bosnia players. The agreement was signed by Adis Hajlovac and Mtsilautovia on behalf of Bosna, and Abdullah Ibrakovic on behalf of Sarajevo. The agreement de facto names Bosna FK Sarajevo's farm team. On September 26, 2014, manager Dar Inan Infinite Uplia was relieved of his duties as first-team manager and was transferred back to the youth academy. On September 30, 2014, former Barcelona, Real Sociedad and Bosnia and Herzegovina international striker Muo Kodro was appointed manager. On February 24, 2015, FK Sarajevo signed a 3.5-year general sponsorship agreement with Turkish Airlines, which has been labeled the most lucrative in Bosnian professional sports history. On April 21, after poor league results, the club sacked Kodro and once again named Dar Inan Infinite Uplia manager until the end of the season. On May 30, the team defeated Sloboda Tuzla in the season's last fixture, thus winning the league title after an 8-year drought. Honours: Yugoslavia Yugoslav First League, winners 1966 Euro 67, 1984 Euro 85, runners-up, 1964 Euro 65, 1979 Euro 80. Yugoslav Cup, runners-up, 1966 Euro 67, 1982 Euro 83. Bosnia and Herzegovina Premier League of Bosnia and Herzegovina, winners 1998 Euro 1999, 2006 Euro 07, 2014 Euro 15, runners-up, 1994 Euro 1995, 1996 Euro 1997, 1997 Euro 1998, 2005 Euro 06, 2010 Euro 11, 2012 Euro 13. Bosnia and Herzegovina Football Cup, winners 1996 Euro 1997, 1997 Euro 98, 2001 Euro 02, 2004 Euro 05, 2013 Euro 14, runners-up, 1998 Euro 99, 2000 Euro 01. Super Cup of Bosnia and Herzegovina, winners 1996 Euro 97, runners-up, 1997 Euro 98, 1998 Euro 99. Players. Current squad as of November 23, 2015. Note: flags indicate national team as defined under FIFA eligibility rules. Players may hold more than one non-FIFA nationality. Out on loan Note: flags indicate national team as defined under FIFA eligibility rules. Players may hold more than one non-FIFA nationality. Izmir Pintole Trophy The Izmir Pintole Trophy is a trophy awarded to the most distinguished player in the past year and named after a deceased FK Sarajevo fan Izmir Pintole. The winner of the trophy is decided by a popular vote on the official website of the club's supporters and has been awarded since 2003. To be eligible to participate in a poll, a player must appear for the club in at least 10 official matches. The trophy was not awarded on 3 separate occasions as an indicator of the supporters' dissatisfaction with team results. Winners. Former players For details of former players, see List of FK Sarajevo players, and category, FK Sarajevo players. European record. Summary Last updated on July 14, 2015. PLD matches played. W matches won. D matches drawn. L matches lost. GF goals for. GA goals against. Defunct competitions indicated in italics. UEFA Cup history UEFA Europa League history UEFA Champions League history UEFA team ranking 2015 Euro 16 Source. Crest and colours. The club's traditional colours are maroon and white, while in recent years black, grey and gold have also been represented as alternative club colours. The first official club crest depicted a red, 5-pointed communist star with golden borders containing a golden silhouette of a footballer. Furthermore, a blue wheel-like circular frame contained the club name. In the early 1960s the club crest was changed for the first time. Namely, it received a badge-like form and was split into two sides of which the outer held the club name and aforementioned communist star, while the inner contained a football with the club's foundation year under it. In the late 1970s the club crest was restylized, but kept the previous motifs that can still be found on today's club crest. With the end of the Bosnian War in 1996 the club crest was once again slightly altered by the replacement of the communist star with a Bosnian golden lily and a new stylization of the crest's motifs, including the lettering, which in subsequent years became one of the club's biggest trademarks. The golden lily was eventually removed from the club crest in 2009, which today lacks any ideological or national symbolism. Instead, the club readily emphasizes the two pre-war crests as part of its heritage, often selling souvenirs that are embroidered with them. Stadium. FK Sarajevo play at the Asim Flatovia Stadium, formerly known as the Koevo Stadium. The stadium was opened in 1947 and named after the Sarajevo neighborhood of Koevo, where it is located. The stadium was literally buried into a local hill, thus merging with its natural surroundings. In 1950 a pitch and a tartan track were also added. The first international football match at the stadium was played between Yugoslavia and Turkey, in 1954. In 1966, the stadium hosted the Balkan Games and was again renovated for the occasion. Namely, a new administration building was built, as were new locker rooms and a restaurant. A modern scoreboard and new lighting were also provided. In 1984, the stadium was reconstructed for the 1984 Winter Olympics that were held in Sarajevo, and is therefore often unofficially called the Olympic Stadium. It is important to note that on February 7, 1984, the Asim H. Flatovia Stadium hosted the opening ceremony of the Games, and seated roughly 50,000. The West Stand held 18,500 seating places at the time. In 2004 the stadium's official name was changed to Asim H. Flatovia, in memory of legendary FK Sarajevo striker Asim Flatovia, who died after a heart attack in 1987. In 1998, 3 years after the end of the Bosnian War, the stadium was renovated for a fourth time. Namely, the seating capacity of the stadium was reduced to 37,500 and new seats were added. The ground has held matches for Sarajevo and their local rival FK Angstrom 1/2 Željezničar, including Europa League and Champions League fixtures. Furthermore, the stadium has hosted the national teams of Yugoslavia and Bosnia and Herzegovina on numerous occasions, as well as many notable athletic meetings. The stadium's highest attendance was recorded in a 1981 Euro 82 league match between FK Sarajevo and their city rival FK Angstrom 1/2 Željezničar. Allegedly, roughly 60,000 people attended the game. The stadium's largest post-war attendance was recorded in 2002 a Euro 2003 UEFA Champions League third qualifying round match between FK Angstrom 1/2 Željezničar and Newcastle United FC. Allegedly, about 36,000 people attended the game. Youth School and Affiliates. The FK Sarajevo Youth School, the club's youth department, is split into two sections. Namely, the Asim Flatovia Hayes School of Football, named after legendary striker Asim Flatovia, and the FK Sarajevo Academy. The former functions as both a general model for the popularization of the sport and as a filtering mechanism, used to pick out locally based footballing talents which are later transferred to the academy. The academy, in turn, is a top-of-the-line boarding school which brings in the biggest talents from Bosnia and Herzegovina and organizes the competitive youth selections for the club. The department was founded in the 1950s and has been historically known as one of the best youth systems in the former Yugoslavia. FK Sarajevo's youth selections train in two venues. Namely, the Asim Flatovia Hayes Sports Complex and the elite Bugmir training camp, which is currently undergoing a huge expansion as of February 2015. Academy graduates that don't immediately get playing time in the senior side are transferred to the club's farm team NK Bosna Visoko. Ladies football. FK Sarajevo also operates a women's football team, SFK 2000 Sarajevo. They have been affiliated to the men's team since 2015. They play their home games at the Otoka Stadium, the home ground of Bosnian Premier League club FK Olimpik Sarajevo. Since the club's founding in 2000, it has become the strongest element in Bosnian women's football, winning 13 consecutive national titles and representing the country in European competitions. Supporters. The club's supporters were historically called Patari, while an individual was, and is still, known as a Pata. The nickname, meaning a consumer of the local Bosnian dish pita, was originally a derogatory label given by fans of working-class FK Angstrom 1/2 El Jizya that implied the pre-war upper-class background of most FK Sarajevo supporters. By the early to mid-1980s, the rowdiness of the Patari during matches of the time provoked large media coverage and accusations of being dangerous. During a big season game against Red Star Belgrade in April 1986, a maroon-painted snake, most probably a specimen of the venomous Vipera amidites, was thrown off the east stand onto the visitors' bench. Alarmed by this, the club management headed by then-director Svito Zavajervia opened the north stand of the Asim Flatovia Stadium to the most fanatical of fans. Soon after, the name Hordesla, that directly translates to Hordes of Evil, was born. Namely, several prominent members of the Patari, influenced by the growing ultra subculture in Europe, decided to create a new identity based on a popular Zaga comic book of the same name. Today, Patari and Hordesla are interchangeable. By the end of 1987, Hordesla became one of the fastest-growing youth organizations in the city of Sarajevo. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, Hordesla became infamous for a few of the largest fan riots in Yugoslavia, including the 1991 stabbing of 2 FK Partizan supporters in front of the JNA Stadium in Belgrade and the 1988 riots in the city of Mostar before a league tie between FK Sarajevo and Vilea 3/4 Mostar, resulting in the stabbing of a local resident and the destruction of large amounts of public and private property. Unlike most other ultra firms in Yugoslavia that had popularized and marketed the growing nationalist fervor that would later lead to the Yugoslav Wars, Hordesla considered themselves Bosniaks, and the other firm's nationalist orientation was often a trigger for violence. After the Bosnian War, Hordesla took back their place on the north stand of the Asim H. Flatovia Stadium on the 10th anniversary of the firm's founding in 1997. Hordesla again made headlines in October 2009, during the infamous Angstrom Iraki Bridge football riots. The riots resulted in the death of Vedran Pulja, a member of Hordesla, and over 30 serious injuries, including 4 gunshot wounds. In April 2010, Hordesla invaded the pitch after Sarajevo played a 1-1 draw against NK Angstrom Iraki Bridge, and eventually went on to demolish large portions of the stadium, including the VIP box and the benches, in clashes with the police and security personnel. The incident resulted in over 40 minor and serious injuries. In July 2012, Hordesla clashed with Levski Sofia supporters in the first leg of a UEFA Europa League match that was held in Sofia, Bulgaria. On July 20, 2013, Hordesla clashed with the fans of Albanian club FK Kikasi in Tirana before the start of a Europa League match. On September 25, 2013, Hordesla invaded the pitch during a game versus FK Borak, charging on the visiting fans situated on the south stand of the Asim H. Flatovia Stadium. The police were forced to intervene and the fixture was subsequently abandoned. Hordesla garner very close relations with the supporters of Dynamo Dresden. Notable supporters famous, non-football related, supporters of FK Sarajevo are listed on this list alphabetically. Enes Bilić, Euro-Bosnian actor and television personality; Halid Bilio, Euro-prominent Bosnian folk and Sevda musician; Emrik Bluma, Euro-Bosnian Jewish businessman, philanthropist and founder and first director of one of Eastern Europe's largest conglomerates, Inego Invest; Jovan Divac, Euro-retired military general; Alexander Hemon, Euro world-renowned Bosnian-American novelist, essayist and literary critic; Alan Halilovian, Euro-Croatian footballer; Zafet Isovian, Euro one of the most prominent and popular performers of Bosnian traditional music; Sevda Linka; Alija Izetbergovian, Euro the first president of Bosnia and Herzegovina; Sanila Diana Jenkins a Euro-Bosnian entrepreneur and philanthropist, Zlatko Lagumda ¾ Ija Euro-politician and former Bosnian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Nenad Markovi a Euro-retired professional basketball player, Dino Merlin a Euro-prominent Bosnian singer-songwriter and producer, Kemal Montano a Euro-popular Bosnian singer-songwriter, Maja Selimovic a Euro-renowned Yugoslav novelist, Dornis Tanovic a Euro Academy Award-winning film director. USD Bosna Hordesla and FK Sarajevo garner a close relationship with USD Bosna, or University Sports Society Bosna. The most notable members of said society are KK Bosna Royal, that won the EuroLeague basketball title in 1979, and FK Bosna Sarajevo, that reached the 1/8 finals of the EHF Champions League in 2011. The relationship traditionally stems from the fact that both sides share unique maroon and white club colors, which lead KK Bosna Royal to garner most of its fan base from FK Sarajevo in its rise to the top in the mid and late 1970s. Through time the two sides became colloquially interchangeable, as Hordesla equally followed both, forming a so-called maroon family. Even though FK Bosna did not represent a big player in Yugoslav handball, the club's post-war ascent was thoroughly supported by Hordesla. On August 29, 2013, FK Sarajevo and FK Bosna Sarajevo signed a cooperation agreement based on the principle of strengthening ties between the aforementioned family members. On November 6, 2013, the same was done between FK Sarajevo and KK Bosna Royal, by which the 40-year-old relationship was officialized. Rivalries Sarajevo Derby FK Sarajevo's rivalry with fellow Sarajevo club FK Angstrom 1/2 El Jizya is mainly focused on the strong animosity between the capital's working class and bourgeoisie, wherein the former traditionally inhabited the more liberal, yet poorer suburban neighborhoods and mainly supported FK Angstrom 1/2 El Jizya, while the latter resided in the traditional and wealthy, mainly Bosniak-dominated, old and central parts of the city and represented the main fan base of FK Sarajevo. Furthermore, since its formation, FK Sarajevo has always been closely tied to the political and financial elites of Bosnia and Herzegovina, both in socialist Yugoslavia and since the country's independence, while FK Angstrom 1/2 El Jizya seldom had such influential support and has been considered a club of common folk, even though this notion can be disputed. Even though the rivalry between the two sides grew large from the very formation of FK Sarajevo, the two teams only met in friendly fixtures for the better part of a decade due to the fact that they competed in different levels of the Yugoslav Football League system. The first official league match was held in 1954. FK Sarajevo won 6-1. This is still the biggest victory by any team in the Sarajevo derby. It is important to note that in the past few decades the class divide between clubs has partly eroded and both fan bases gather support from all classes, but the historical differences and animosities are still visible. As of October 4, 2015, 126 Sarajevo derbies have been played, with 39 wins for FK Sarajevo, 39 for FK Angstrom 1/2 El Jizya and 47 draws. Other rivalries FK Sarajevo also shares a strong historic rivalry with NK Zenica as well as a relatively new rivalry with NK Angstrom Iraki Bridge, which came into being as a result of the 2009 Angstrom's Iraki Bridge riots that cost the life of FK Sarajevo supporter Vedran Pulja and resulted in over 30 serious injuries including 4 gunshot wounds. There are conflicting reports about who started the violence. Hordesla accused local residents and police for their mistreatment on their way to the match, and right up to entering the stadium. The official statement of Hordesla claims that the incident was planned by local politicians and that their buses were separated and parked too far from the stadium, which left them open to stoning and attacks. They also claim that initially there were only 30 local policemen present, and they did nothing to prevent the violence. Local police and residents said Hordesla fans were the first to attack. According to local police officials, most of the regional police had earlier been sent to the nearby city of Mostar to prevent possible violence during the match between city rivals Zrinjski and Vilea 3/4. The subsequent violence that followed resulted in Vedran Puljar's death. Since the riots, meetings of the two sides carry an ominous atmosphere. Sarajevo shares another relatively new rivalry with HK Zrinjski Mostar based on both clubs playing pivotal roles in Bosnian football. Club records. FK Sarajevo, under the name Torpedo, played its first match on November 3, 1946 against Bratstvo Travnik, winning 6-0. The club's first Yugoslav First League tie was a 2-2 draw against Poncijana Trieste on August 25, 1947. The Maroon Whites played their first official European match on July 18, 1960 in the Mitropa Cup, losing 2-4 to MTK Budapest. FK Sarajevo's records holder for number of club appearances is Ibrahim Biogradlia. He played 646 games for the Maroon Whites between 1951 and 1967. The goal-scoring record holder is striker Dobrivoje Angstrom, one half of who scored 212 goals in both official and unofficial matches for the club. The goal-scoring record holder in official matches is legendary striker Asim Flatovia, who found the back of the net on 126 occasions in all official competitions, including 98 league goals. Over 50 FK Sarajevo players were capped for the Yugoslav and Bosnian national teams. Former FK Sarajevo defender Farhad Abadija is the third most capped player in the history of the Yugoslav national team with 65 caps. He captained the Blues at the 1990 FIFA World Cup. Former FK Sarajevo defender Mirsat Fazlagia captained Yugoslavia at UEFA Euro 1968 and was named part of the all-tournament team. Former FK Sarajevo midfielder Elver Bailda would break Real Madrid's transfer record in a 1999 move from Fenerbahce Section E. The Galacticos paid a transfer fee of $26 million for the Bosnian. Former FK Sarajevo player Zafet Suaia would be named Bosnia and Herzegovina's UEFA Golden Jubilee inductee in 2004. 6 of the 10 former Bosnia and Herzegovina national team managers are former FK Sarajevo players: Fadmusa Urovia, Dar 3/4 Imaluddin Muovia, Farhad 3/4 Abadija, Denijal Piria, Miroslav Blaha 3/4 Evija and Zafet Suaia. FK Sarajevo was the most successful club from Bosnia and Herzegovina in the Yugoslav First League, winning 2 titles and finishing runners-up on 2 other occasions. The club is ranked 6th in that competition's all-time league table. FK Sarajevo is the record holder for number of Bosnian Cup triumphs. The Maroon Whites are second in the all-time table of the Premier League of Bosnia and Herzegovina, 11 points behind city rivals FK Angstrom 1/2 El Jazira. They have won the national championship 3 times, finishing runners-up on 6 different occasions. Club officials. Technical staff as of October 25, 2015, the staff includes Board of Directors as of October 8, 2014 Club management as of October 25, 2015 Sporting directors Chairman Below is a list of FK Sarajevo chairmen from 1946 until the present day. Managerial history Below is a list of FK Sarajevo managers from 1946 until the present day.